Te aho tapu is the sacred thread, and that, so when we're making a korowai, first we cast on and then we do the first line, and the first line is called the sacred thread. And the reasoning behind this is that it sets the pattern for your korowai. So if you get that wrong, it means that your whole pattern of the korowai is going to be completely destroyed. You'll be working, say, for an hour or two, and then you'll notice that your pattern's totally out of line and you're losing the pattern, so that's why it's called the sacred thread. We also have a very deep meaning that comes with the pattern, so that's why it's called the sacred thread, te aho tapu. We have kahu huru, which is what my korowai are, meaning that they're a full cloak of feathers. So we were weaving clothes. It was a necessity, not an art form. It's an art form today because through the land wars and the disease and everything that took place through our history, our art, our culture was totally suppressed for a long time, but hidden throughout Aotearoa were those who were still holding the knowledge. So that had to regrow again with the Māori Renaissance. That's when we started to claim back everything. Our language, our art, weaving, culture, our whole culture we had to reclaim back, so it was like a rebirth. To do that, of course, we took a lot of flack. The backlash on us daring to stand up and say, hey, we exist and we have a culture and traditions, was seen as just a terrible, terrible thing to do. Those stupid Māoris, there they are, blah, 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 but we just drove straight through them. Just pushed them aside to bring back what is ours. So when we started weaving korowai again, we were one. The iwi had gone as a group working together, that had gone. So the process as a weaver now can be quite lonely because you're at home. So we get together every now and again as weavers, and we weave in groups for the company, exchange ideas. So when I retired is when I started. And calling on the knowledge that I had as a child wasn't quite enough. I had to reach out to all the weavers, fortunately, who in the generation above me, there was still some of them alive, and Diggeres Takanawa was one of them. Just amazing, amazing woman, and she's one of the ones that held the knowledge. And I was fortunate enough her daughter took me to meet her. She lived in Gisborne, and she took me to her harakeke plantation, and I was allowed to bring some of her plants back here, back to Auckland, where I lived at that time. And I started my first korowai under her guidance and as I was learning with her as a mentor, the knowledge started to come back. But fortunate enough to always have an elder at that time watching. Most korowai weavers now, the ones who don't do traditional weaving, that is, they're using string, or they get a blanket and they sew some feathers on it with a sewing machine. Those are contemporary cloaks. Shouldn't be confused with korowai, the traditional weaving. They cannot apply for the feathers. It's only for those of us who use the muka from the harakeke leaf. So there's a huge difference between it. So the pure luck that I retired on Waiheke Island, and during my time of weaving the kahu pukeko, I had a supply coming through. I'm working at the moment on a kahu keruru. I don't know if you can see that behind me, which is it has been 15 years of keruru coming in when they break their necks on glass windows, and glass balustrades. So the people at Waiheke, if it happens, they arrive on the front door with the kiddo and they're crying. But they're really happy because they know they could bring it to me and that through the korowai, these kiddo will live on. So it has been 17 years, and over the 17 years there's been enough kiddo brought to me by the people on the island to actually make a kahu huru or a kahu kiddo. So I consider myself very, very fortunate. And in a way, it's giving them another life. And these kiddo are Waiheke kiddo. And when you see this kahu kiddo anywhere on display when it's finished at any of the art galleries, you'll know, well, there you go. Kei te pai, that's the Waiheke kiddo. So it has its own form of beauty and poetry. Kia ora tātou, so we're at the Piritahi Marae and I'm just about to show you how to cut harakeke. So it's very important. In the middle we have what is called rito, that's the baby, and the two on the outside are called rito awhina. These are the parents, so we never cut them because that's the new birth, the regrowth. So when we're cutting the harakeke, we go into the outside of awhina rito and we cut away because we have the gum that rolls out this way. We don't want it rolling in here. And we go down the other side and we cut again on an angle so that the harakeke is totally protected. So the next step after we've harvested the harakeke is we bring the harakeke back and we remove the spine. Then we remove the two outer sides. And then you can see this part of the harakeke down here, right down at the base, is too hard to use, so we usually cut that off. We make a cut at the back of the leaf. Now this is very important. You just hope when you make that cut, even after years of experience, that you're not cutting too deep or too shallow, that you haven't cut into the fibre at the back. So you turn it over to the top, press on that cut, pulling down, and pull away, and out comes the fibre. And there it is there. So under there, which I've talked about earlier on in the video, is a second skin, which is like fine wax, and that has to be stripped off. So we usually, the harakeke is just a little bit damp. When that happens, you've got to do a little bit of scraping. And then you turn it around and you go up and strip the other side with the same movements. And there it is there. So you've pulled all the fibre from that piece of leaf. And again, you're right down there, Cisco. Am I throwing this putter all over you? And you can see how beautiful it is. It's so fine. So once you've done that, you have to miro it, which is twisting. The haro has been completed. That is the separation of the fibre from the harakeke. Now we're ready to miro or twist, ready to make a whenu. So we just roll it through, join it together and come back. And that's the twist of the two fibres have been brought together. And turn it around.
I need my arm.
Need the arm. We twist again. By the time you get to the knee, you should be on the way back, and I've missed it.
It's
So
like a special part
my
of
hand,
that you aim for.
yes, that's
where they'll come together.
like
and then,
that.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't a very good one either.
So I've got to say, everything's dry.
Yeah.
Need water.
We do.
But we'll go again, have another go. Rolling, come on, come on, come on. And then across we go. Rolling it together. And back. That is your complete, that's your whenua complete. Ready to start weaving. Although, no, not quite. Because after you have made 500 of these, you then have to wash them 3 times and then you have to patu them. And you will use the patu, the muka patu, to soften the fibre. And then you're ready to weave. Alice has just finished hers, so there we go. We have 2 of them.
Yeah.
Aye, kia ora.
800 more to go?
Thank you, Alice. I have fond memories of being under trees and running around playing with cousins and friends, and the adults would go and pick the harakeke and bring bundles of it and drop it down in front of us children, and we would play and weave all morning to have the kono ready for lunch or dinner. So we used to have a lot of fun. So that was the beginning of seeing and working with harakeke, harakeke being flax. So watching my aunties weave all sorts of things and kurawai. And I remember the first day I saw my kurawai, and auntie had it on the first time I saw a kurawai. I just couldn't believe it. I thought it was the most magical thing I'd ever seen. It was just like a rainbow when the sun hit the feathers and everything lit up. It was just so beautiful. And I remember saying to myself, one day I am going to weave a kurawai.